Shit 90 Shows Taught Me.
Shit 90 Shows Taught Me was not filmed before a live studio audience.
Are you ready to slay another day? So are we. Welcome back to Shit 90 Shows Taught Me. I'm Jess Sterling here with my co-host, Sarah Humphrey. Sarah, how are you?
How do I know it's really you? How do I know?
Well, I am doing a side part, not a middle part, so that should be a giant indicator. I also don't have fangs or a red lip on, and I'm most certainly not wearing pleather.
Yeah, I remember when you used to podcast exclusively with red lipstick on. What happened to that?
I got lazy.
Yeah.
You know what it was? You know what it really was? It was
Yeah.
COVID happened, and I never left my house, so I never put on makeup. Couldn't tell you the last time I wore makeup at this point in my life.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, we're not alone. We're with someone that is definitely, truly this person and no one else. Welcome back to the podcast, Hannah. Hannah, how are you?
I'm so good. Thank you for having me back. I will come back as many times to talk about Buffy. I like that you said we're not alone. It sounded so scary.
We're not alone.
Evil. She is evil. That's something
one.
that only like an evil person would say, Hannah.
Look behind you, listener.
Yes. Yeah.
You're not alone.
You're not alone. It's creepy. It's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Maybe we should rethink that.
I'm in, just for the listener's sake, I'm in my my Buffy Sunnydale cheerleading top because
Yes.
I got inspired by coming on the podcast. I had to do a Buffy costume for Halloween.
So is this okay? So wait, this was a Halloween costume that you had?
I put it together. My original idea, funny enough, I really wanted to do Willow from this episode for Doppelgangland. But my problem with Halloween is two main things. One, I'm not crafty or artistic in that way. Two, I don't have them like endless funds to spend on a costume. And that combination really limits you, it turns out. And so I looked for her pleather outfit thing, and it was either going to be really expensive or really not look like the costume. So
And I'm sure it wouldn't be comfortable either. Like, you'd probably be about as comfortable as Willow is in the outfit when she's not Villow in the outfit.
Yes, when she's like, I'm a blood-sucking fiend. Look at my outfit.
Yeah, look at me. Come on.
Yeah, the original idea was to do that. But then I thought I'd put together pieces from, Etsy. I got a Sunnydale class of 99 sweatshirt. I got, bite marks, and my boyfriend's hair right now is very old-timey Irish angel. So he was
Right.
it's sort of shoulder length, and he did for me, he did the goatee.
Oh, what a gift.
Yeah.
What a gift. Okay, so you're saying that your Sunnydale cheerleader sweater costume is an Etsy exclusive.
Well, yes, the yellow shirt, and then I got this iron-on patch.
Oh, it's a patch.
I think it was the skirt you got from Etsy, right? The plaid,
Yes,
the plaid skirt.
The plaid skirt and this patch. I got the skirt. I got from Etsy the Sunnydale class of 99 sweatshirt. And just a bunch of bite marks and blood. I came on the podcast, and then I was like, I have to do Buffy something. So I had to dress up to return.
Yeah, I love it. We don't have any costumes. We've never tried dressing up. Just
I'm not a big costume person.
No,
I don't know what. I'm not. I don't know. It's never really interested me.
Mhm.
But I do think, like, if I was to do something like that, I love the idea of like the alternate reality version of someone, which is like the premise of this episode of Buffy, season 3, episode 15, Doppelgangland. I knew, Hannah, before, so this was a long time coming that you were like, this is the episode I want to be on.
Correct.
A lot of people had hyped this episode up. Like, I knew this was going to be something that was fun to talk about at the very least, because people had like hyped it up so much. And yet I don't even know if I was prepared at all. Obviously we've met alternate, like, alter ego Willow, who in my notes the entire time, I referred to as Villow because I don't really know any other, right? Like Vampy Willow.
good.
Like, what else do you do?
That was I mean, typically I give judgments towards when you do things like this, but no notes. Pretty good.
Yeah. Villow.
Villow's great.
Yeah. But so we've met Villow before. Upsettingly, she was very into Xander at the time. Thankfully in this episode, not so much, but I love her apathy. You know what it is, Sarah? We talk a lot on the podcast about how you tend to be, you're definitely the more apathetic one of the two of us.
Yes.
And that you oftentimes just have no feelings on things. You're just like, whatever.
Yeah,
I would love that. I would love to have that energy. I don't. But I envy Villow's ability to be like, this is so boring. Like, I can't even.
Yeah. And I love the real Willow, how she was just like, yes, I don't want to kill anybody anymore because it's boring. Let's do something else. that was a good ism. It was really a really, really fun episode, and seeing Villow and Willow together, I kind of felt, and Hannah, I don't know if you know anything about this, that this episode felt more elevated than previous episodes based off of like so the pencil thing in the very beginning of the episode. Willow is practicing her magic and is like doing some spinnies with the pencil. I don't feel like we've seen effects like that. And I know everyone's like, oh, Buffy effects are so bad, blah, 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 especially in the beginning. I thought this was pretty good. And then on top of that, I felt like it didn't look really crappy when both Willows were in the same frame together. Like, obviously, when one Willow is like her back's to the other Willow or her front's to the other, we see her back. Like, obviously, those are two actors. But like when they were in the same frame together, I didn't think it looked so bad. So I kind of felt like this was like a more elevated episode.
Yeah. So this episode was written by Joss Whedon. This is a Whedon episode, and he put it himself in one of his top episodes ever. I think it's elevated for a lot of reasons, one of which I think top to bottom, the isms, it's just ism, it's just crackling, like every line, like, now if you'll excuse me, I have to go do someone else's homework. Like, aren't you naturally buff? I was worried. I rewatched the episode last night because I was like, do I know this well enough to come on the podcast? But as I was like saying the lines in unison while watching it, I realized that I do know the episode because it is so tight top to bottom. Like, it's just so snappy. Like, it's, if you were to give someone an episode of Buffy and be like, this is the language of the world, which is teenagers written by a team of writers, this is the episode you give them, where you're like, it's just, she wouldn't be on the cover of Sanity Fair. Like, you could keep listing things.
Oh, that was so good. That was such a witty line.
Crackling. Like, it's all so good. The doppelganger effect doesn't look bad. I don't think this is too big a spoiler to say in a future season, way down the line, there is another episode where an actor has a doppelganger for a different reason. And that actor actually has a twin. So, fun fact, the next time you see a doppelganger, that actor has a twin. And I know that's a bit of, but it's a completely different reason. And that, so none of that will be.
The only reason why we know that is because I went on Nicholas Brandon. Is that his name? Did I remember his name?
Did you remember his name is Xander? I don't know.
Nicholas Brandon, right?
Is that his name?
Right?
I don't know.
To be clear, it's not a spoiler because the whole context is completely different. Doppelganger, Xander.
I'm not. Neither of us are upset, so no listeners.
Well, I think that if I didn't already spoil myself that there's two of him, there's two Xanders, then we wouldn't have caught on to that. But I already went on to IMDb and figured that out, and I think we found out that live on a podcast. I don't remember which one.
I remember us finding out. I don't remember live.
So
I know
like,
you looked, but
two of them. That's pretty much what I said.
Maybe it was when we looked up his mugshot or something. That could have been it.
A mugshot? I don't know.
We've talked about this. He's not a good guy in real life. Yeah, we've had this conversation. Yeah, he did bad things. I don't remember.
About it.
Either way,
it's true. I think that's the twin.
Going back to the pencil conversation,
Yes.
because I did want to like remark on this scene in general. Like, this is where we find out like Buffy has been training even more. Like, Wesley has her like like getting physically and mentally more like quote unquote in shape. And also there's a bit of like a competitive rivalry between Faith and Buffy ever since the whole she killed a human incident, right? It's very Faith v Buffy clashing. And when Buffy brings up Faith, it was so interesting to me, right? Like, Willow is practicing with this pencil. Amy is still a rat, by the way. In case anyone's keeping track, Amy, still a rat, still not having that situation fixed. But Willow has learned to spin a pencil. And when Faith gets brought up, Willow loses her cool with this pencil and it like flings around and then shoots into a tree. And Sarah, I want to know, do you think the reason Willow loses a bit of like quote unquote emotional control of the pencil, is it because Faith, like Willow knows Faith killed a human and is like against Buffy, or is it because Xander and Faith slept together?
Oh, interesting. I think that whenever Willow thinks about Faith, she gets emotional / angry, both because of the Faith and Xander thing, and also because of her jealousy about like the time that was taken away from her with Buffy from last episode. And then of course the fact that like she's on like bad Slayer watch, and I'm like surprised that Faith just like went back home and was like, hey guys, like everything's cool now, like I'm back and I'm normal, and everyone's like okay with that. Of course she's on like probation or whatever, but she's still like training for this like, I don't know, SAT Slayer test, and everybody I feel like is just acting like nothing really happened. So I don't know exactly what the deal with that is. I thought that like Faith was like actually going to run away and everybody was just going to be like, oh, Faith ran away, who knows where she is, she went back to Boston, is that where she's from?
Boston, yeah.
But in reality she was just like staying home base to like work for the mayor. But then of course she's more valuable to the mayor if she's a double agent, so I guess not. I don't know. Hannah, do you think that if you had to like do a pie chart of like what percentage of what, like how do you think that Willow's feelings towards Faith are?
Yeah. This, I will pie chart it out for you, but this reminds me, you saying, is she mad about Xander, reminds me, I've been listening to the podcast now. I tune in with all the listeners. So I hear your theories, I hear your anger and whatever. And I was listening to the last episode where Willow got upset in the bathroom after finding out Xander and Faith slept together. And I wanted to chime in so badly, but I was in my car without a mic far away from you guys. So I didn't. But this is reminding me of that before I pie chart. I would like to defend Willow.
Oh, please do.
I feel I desperately wanted to, but shouting in my car wasn't doing anything. I would like to two things. One, these characters are flawed. So I'm not defending the cheating. I'm not defending, I'm not saying she's a perfect person, but I would like to compare it to when she found out about Cordelia and Xander. When she found out about Cordelia and Xander, she got mad at Xander. She said, how could you be with her? Like, you want to be with everyone but me. And it's a moment where, despite our feelings on Xander, right, in general, she's in the wrong. She's not allowed to get mad at him for who he chooses to be. But in the past episode, she finds out about Faith. She doesn't put it on Oz, who she's trying to rebuild with. She's not like, can you believe this? She doesn't yell at Xander. She doesn't even put it at Buffy. She goes by herself and has a moment alone. She's a teenager who, her best friend who part of her like loved and wanted, she found out slept with another person who she doesn't like, who her other best friend seems to be very close with. And I think that she's allowed to have a moment to be upset, even if she's rebuilding with Oz. She doesn't put it on anybody else and she takes it for herself. So I really wanted to speak up and defend Willow.
That's really fair though. That is really fair. I think you're right that like, I'm a little hard on her at times because of the whole Xander thing, but I think you're right that like at the very least she's alone. She's not like putting this on anyone else. She's not forcing anyone else to deal with any of this. Like, she's doing it by herself. And if it helps for some reason, and I don't know if it's catharsis or like what the situation is, having Cordelia have the keys to a cage that she thinks, at least, real Willow is trapped in, it just like healed me in a way that like I didn't know I necessarily needed. Like, I was like, you know what? I feel like I might be able to move on from the cheating thing now. Like, I feel better. I feel better now that Cordelia was able to like say her piece to a literal captive audience, you know?
Look, I'm not defending Willow for any of the cheating. I'm just saying that in terms of finding out, when she finds out, she quietly accepts it in front of everybody else and then just takes a moment to like be upset. In terms of the pie chart, though, because I will always answer your question, even if it's a roundabout way, I think she's more jealous over Buffy and Faith than Faith and Xander. I feel like, you know, in Bad Girls, remember when Buffy met Willow and Willow's only friend was Xander, and then suddenly she had this like close best friendship, and then in Bad Girls she felt very thrown to the side. You know, she didn't get to slay. She made Buffy the smelly potion thing, and you know, I think she's more, she doesn't like Faith because Faith is murderous, but I also think she's like a teenage girl who
that's my bestie.
Got jealous of the close friendship / sapphic undertones of Faith and Buffy. So I think that's a big, I think of the pie chart, I'd say maybe, God, I hope I do this very basic math correctly. 60% jealousy over Buffy and Faith's close friendship, 20% Xander, and 20% Faith killed someone and she's against murder.
Yeah. Okay. I can see it. I can definitely understand and see that.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. And like, especially we'll get into, you know, I mean, a lot of this episode is very Willow heavy in that she is getting really tired of being quote unquote old reliable. Everyone relies on her for everything. And because she is very reliable, and gosh, I oftentimes like Willow isn't necessarily the character I relate to the most. I mean, I was very nerdy growing up, don't get me wrong, still am, but I can relate to this, being the person who people know if they ask you for something, you will do it. If they ask you to do all the work, if they force you to tutor this basketball player and basically have to do all his work for him. If you're the one responsible for like, you know, using old technology, but like a VCR to like tape a show for your friends, everyone is always relying on Willow because she is the good person, because she will just do it. And she is so tired of being that person. She wants to break out and be like spontaneous and fun and not be the girl wearing the sweater with smiley faces on it all the time. Like, it is kind of relatable. And I love that we got to get Willow both frustrated and standing up for herself, but doing it in the most Willowy way possible. Like her being like, I'm gonna eat this banana now. It's not even lunchtime. You know, like it's like, so what a ridiculous way to like fight against the machine.
Yeah,
like,
to
I'm gonna eat this banana now.
Yeah, to rebel. Like, I'm gonna eat the banana before it's even lunchtime.
Yeah.
Which I don't even think she wound up eating the banana.
Oh my gosh. No, she stormed off.
Yeah, she didn't even eat her banana.
It's so funny because I think most episodes, the show really stays in this structure of everything has to relate to what Buffy's going through. And I think this one stays in it. I know for season 4, we've already talked about how I'm coming on for Wild at Heart. I think we decided that a while ago during my first appearance. Is one of the first departures of the show that episode's truly not about Buffy. But this one I think is a turning point for Willow. I'll say that. I don't think Willow's ever fully the same after this episode, but I also think it heavily is about Buffy as well, even if it doesn't seem that way, because, you know, you have Willow and her doppelganger, Villow.
Villow is what I've been calling her.
Thank you. I almost said Villow. I was like, Villow. And then you have Buffy and her doppelganger Faith, right? This sort of and on top of all that, you know, doppelganger Willow comes from the episode The Wish. And if you remember Buffy in The Wish, she did not need friends, she did not need family, and she reminded me at least of Faith.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I mean, she comes in and Giles is like, "Hey, I think there's this demon on Yanka," and she's like, "I don't need that." And she acts a lot like Faith in that. So I think Faith, I mean, you know, is the term shadow self, or like the mirror of Buffy, and so I think it's all connected.
That's so interesting because it also reminds me of last episode where I was talking about how like Faith could be what Buffy would have been like if she didn't get like the support, and that is Faith. Like that's literally I don't know why we didn't like make that connection last episode because we're dumb fucks.
Well, no, because Sarah, you know why though? Because I knew this next episode had to do with doppelgangers, obviously based on the title. I was thinking, and I said this last episode, I'm like, Faith is acting so weird. What if it's like not actually Faith? I thought what we were going into was going to be like, no, Faith has been like body snatched. So that was where like my head was going into this episode, because Faith was acting like, and I'm not saying she's just acting in a way that I was like, this is very intense and like severe and like a very big pivot to like, not saying it doesn't make sense. It does, but it was like, she's going in hard mode, like immediately.
Balls to the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, I think part of that is, you know, with Angel, when Angel had his turn, we had built Angel up a lot throughout the season and in season 2. And I think you guys being like, where's Faith? I think her lack of presence is felt with the turn, probably more than if you had, you know, sewn her a little bit more into the early.
She'd been around more, and so I think it's perfect timing for Anya to approach Willow and be like, I need help with a spell. Like, I know you're Wiccan. Like, do you want to help me? And Willow is like, oh my gosh, finally, like something I can do that is fun. Like maybe it's a little dark magic. Like I'm down. She wants to be the fun girl. And I don't know if like when they actually have this whole spell, and the whole point is, in case people didn't rewatch the episode, that Anya, the Wish Girl, wants to create a temporal fold to go back, get her necklace, because she's tired of being a high schooler. She's like over 1,000 years old. She can't even get a freaking alcoholic beverage. Like she's tired.
She's
of
flunking
being in high
math.
School. Yeah, it's a tough time.
That makes sense. That makes the most sense to me. Math would have been different like 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she's having a tough time. And so she approaches Willow, and this makes perfect sense. And I don't know, Sarah, if like they're doing this whole spell, right? And they have like some purple glitter stuff, and there's a plate, and there's all this stuff happening. And in my mind, part of the reason that Villow gets released from this alternate world out of the temporal fold instead of Anya's necklace is because of what's going on with Willow. Like, because emotionally, mentally, she is like almost wishing she could be more spontaneous.
That's interesting. Maybe. I mean, like my thought was that like default it's Hellmouth, weird stuff happens in Hellmouth. Like that's what every single time something strange has happened, the answer is they're on a Hellmouth. So that's where my mind went to. But I think that that's really interesting, where if you have something on your mind while you're doing a spell, like the fact that she's frustrated that like nobody like she doesn't have like the confidence that people like don't walk over her, then that would be incorporated into the spell. Like I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't know necessarily if that's what the show is intending, but
yeah, who knows.
Can I blow your mind with the simplicity of what I think it is?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the purple dust thing
right
was supposed to fall onto the plate, right? Where the picture of the necklace was. So the necklace was supposed to be brought. But when Willow saw all the dark things that was happening in this alternate reality, she panicked and pushed the purple dust over her own hand.
Oh.
The purple
So it
dust
touched
hit her own
her.
hand, so she brought back, if the plate with the picture of the necklace is the mirror image of the necklace, she did her own hand, so the mirror image of her is Villow.
Oh.
Okay, that makes sense.
It is a little tricky of a scene because the way it's shot, it doesn't really look like they're about to put the purple dust over the plate. Maybe
Yeah.
if that was shot clearer, but I believe when the dark arts got darker than she liked, that she moved it away from the plate and put it on herself, hence bringing into their world Villow.
That makes perfect sense. I really hadn't thought of that. And the other thing was when that all went down, so when the spell is taking place, and then we see Villow like appear, right? Like we like go back in time, it's like, oh, suddenly she's gone. She's not getting staked by Oz. She's appearing. Sarah, I got really nervous at first because I at first thought, not really understanding the spell to its full like potential and whatnot, I thought they had swapped places.
Ooh, yeah.
I was so scared I'm like, oh my God, imagine being Willow and showing up in that universe, she'd get killed instantly.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I'm also very appreciative that we didn't get the typical thing where we get doppelgangers where like they're wearing the same outfit and then there's a scene at the end be like, who's the real Willow? I don't know. Like there's this episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Are You Afraid of the Dark with T and Tamara that has been ingrained in my head. One of them's a chameleon, the other one is a human, and like I got terrorized by it for decades because basically they chose incorrectly. The chameleon lived to see another day. So I've been afraid of that ever since.
Yeah, luckily it's not that. It's just that Villow is now a part of Willow's world. And she's just walking around like, what is up with this world? This world sucks. Like, it's not as vampy as my world is. She goes to the Bronze, which we know from The Wish was like the vampy hangout spot. And of course, that's where she runs into Percy, who is the basketball player that Snyder has assigned to her. And one little note on Snyder, and it's only because I was watching with a group, so I was like very much paying super close attention. I noticed on Snyder's desk, Sarah, he has a photo of a child. Now, let me just say, of all the people in the world that I would expect to be a parent, Snyder is not one of them. He hates kids. So who is this child? Is this a fake child? Is this his real child? What's going on?
Well, I mean, like a lot of people say that they hate kids except their own. So maybe that's it.
Maybe I was just like, this is suspicious.
I mean, that is a little suspicious. It's probably the actor's real kid. And he just like put it or like
one of our listeners suggested maybe it came with the frame, which I thought was hilarious.
Oh, that is funny.
Snyder would do that. That's funny.
Yeah, that's actually very funny. Like we Adam and I are still celebrating somebody else's marriage in a frame that we were gifted because we haven't gotten a picture
incredible
for it. Yes. So we're still celebrating this random couple for the last month actually. So good for them. I hope that they're happy. They're probably not.
Do you guys have like secret codes with like your friends or your partner or someone that if you get body swapped, they know it's you?
Oh, I've definitely had this discussion before. Yes.
Sarah made me think of that.
I feel like it would be very obvious. Like if the person isn't shouting when they talk and like doesn't bring up dogs every 5 seconds, just know it's not me. Like it's not me.
That tracks. No, but I do have a safe word.
Okay. Well, don't tell us.
I don't want to know it. Yeah.
We can't know it because your doppelganger is probably a listener.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. Wait, was that Felicity? We were talking about safe words?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it wasn't this podcast, but
yeah,
that's what I have.
Okay. So Villow is now in the world and she goes to the Bronze, and this is where Percy comes over and is like, hey, where's my like essay? And Villow has no time for this. She is like, you're pissing me off. I'm bored. I'm just going to beat you up instead. And Xander comes in, misunderstanding the situation, tries to defend Willow, and then realizes she's a vampire, which leads to a really funny misunderstanding where Buffy and Xander and Giles are all like
my gosh.
mourning the loss of Willow because they think she's been turned.
That was so funny. They were having like a obituary, like memorial service for Willow. She was the best of us.
Better than me.
Better than me. And then Giles
Much
was like,
better.
"You're right. She was better."
It was
That
so
was
good.
funny.
It was
That
so
was
good.
so funny. Yeah.
I enjoy they played it very real. I later on when Cordelia is like thinks that Willow's dead, they really play that for comedy. And so I have like that moment is a little iffy for me, but this one really works.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
It's just perfect. And they're all like mourning their loss, right? They're all just kind of like taking a
Ugh.
moment. And this is when Willow actually like shows up and they're like, "Wait a minute, what?" And they're like, something is going on, something very strange is happening. And Anya immediately is like, "I will take advantage of this situation. Like, we will use Villow for me to get back, like restore Villow's world, and Anya can get her amulet back." So she's like, "Yes, this is perfect. This is what I want." And they're going to get their like an army of vampires together. Villow like almost gets beaten up by some vamps that we'll get into the mayor's storyline, but he wants Willow killed because she's looking into him. But it turns out they're working for the mayor. I will say, Hannah, it's something about the fingers and like her.
Oh, I had to
just
look away.
right?
The
There's something
sound
so
effect was
nasty.
so good. But here's why this episode's so good. You just very succinctly, as you should on a podcast, described what was happening. And I, like a little child, got defensive of thinking she missed like 5 amazing lines that she should have mentioned. But that's why this episode is so good. Like,
Yeah.
when Giles goes, "It's something," and Xander's like, "Can you believe the Watchers Council let this guy go?" There's just so many. It's so like it's just chock full. Did you guys just take a bunch of drugs? It's just so like it's snappy.
Yeah. It's very
And the
yeah.
fingers were uncomfortable. It's the sound effect. I think it's the sound effect. I think that's what did it. It really felt
It was
painful.
that cracking, snapping, like
Yes.
grossness. I
Ooh.
can't. Oh, and one other thing I don't want to skip past because I do think it goes back to our conversation about Willow and Oz and kind of where they stand. Sarah, I thought it was really interesting that we had a scene this episode where Willow and Oz kind of are talking in the hall as they pass by before any of the Villow stuff is really going on. And they feel a little disconnected where like Willow didn't know he had a gig, like she didn't like she's like, "Oh, I didn't know." And he's like, "Oh, I thought you did." She's like, "Oh, I would have liked to go." And he's like, "Oh, well, you would have had to like miss school." And she immediately is like, "Oh, you think I'm boring?" Because again, she doesn't want to be old reliable.
Yeah.
And a lot of people pointed out this line from this episode, and to Hannah's point, very snappy. I love it. I'd call that a radical interpretation of the text.
Oh,
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. But it does feel like they're a little disconnected. And I don't know if I'm reading too much into that or if it was like because Willow is kind of feeling pretty defensive about everyone thinking she's just old reliable.
I think both. I mean, it's no secret that I just don't see this relationship going very long term. It seems as though our good friend Seth Green is really busy with his black hair for Austin Powers.
Yes.
So I just see him being, not long for this world. I like projected my own experiences into what Oz's experiences would be in the fact that like just trying to get over the jealousy aspect or like the cheating aspect or whatnot. So I think that they are disconnected. And I also think that especially with Willow, she got into all these schools. Like she could be, who knows where she's going to go. She could go to Stanford. She could go to Harvard. She could go to Yale. She can go to Sunnydale University. Like there's so many places that she could go.
It's on Hellmouth.
And I'm sure, like, I think that a lot of couples that are seniors in high school, when they don't know exactly like where they're going, I think a lot of senior couples are in a really weird spot because it's a good thing to not go to the same college as your high school sweetheart. It's really, really good, but it's also really, really hard not to do, you know?
I just, as someone who is the roommate of a freshman year with a girl in a long distance relationship, I disagree. I woke up to this man on Zoom or whatever it was, Skype, watching us one time.
No.
Whatever it was at the time. I woke up
Horrible.
to my roommate's boyfriend. It was a tiny room watching us sleep. And I
That
thought,
is-
this is a nightmare.
That is horrible.
Shout out to the tiny rooms in North.
Terrible.
They just have like
It scarred me so
24/7.
Apparently it scarred me so much for long distance relationships that when I met my now boyfriend who lives with me, I told him, I like you a lot, but I will not be in a long distance relationship, before I proceeded to be with him for a year and a half in a long distance relationship. So,
Boundaries right away.
I told him, I said, look, I don't want to wake up to someone watching me sleep on a computer. That's what long distance is.
Yeah.
It's so interesting I understand your perspective on the cheating. Obviously, for any listener who thinks this whole episode is me defending cheating, I am not. I would never cheat. I'm not, why am I? People don't need to know that I don't cheat. But I will say that, like, in Buffy, what makes it such a good show, and I know I've heard other guests come onto your podcast and talk about this, is nothing ever, something doesn't happen one episode and then disappear. There are things, like Xander's line to Buffy when she's going to fight Angel, and he says, kick his ass for us. That is such a emotional, important moment that I believe that's referenced in season 7, maybe, like, things don't go away. Like, people who live in the world outside of a fictional TV show, someone can say something to you in 3rd grade and you could cry to your husband about it because you have a bad interaction with someone in the grocery store when you're 35. I mean, that's how humanity works. Why am I explaining this?
No, that's such a good point.
How human works. And so I would like to say that I would like to assure you that cheating, things like that doesn't just disappear. At the same time, when good Willow as bad Willow like re-enters the bronze, and the look on Oz's face, recognizing it's her, there's so much love in one look that I love Woz, and I think Willow, with her deep empathy and compassion as a character, is just produces the best romantic relationships of anyone on the show, personally, in my opinion. And I root for them.
Yeah. Later in the episode, it's obviously made like very, very clear. Like, there are obvious feelings there. It just, I didn't know, and it could be both, how to interpret it. Of like, is Willow just tired of being this like person who's seen as a goody two shoes who won't miss school for her boyfriend's concert? Or is there more of a disconnect there as a result of everything that has happened? And it could be both. But back to Villow.
Villow. Yes.
Yeah, Villow. So
I have apologies if the way I recapping this is a little more all over the place. If there's a listener that hasn't chronologically the episode, I realize it's a little.
It's hard with this one specifically because it is so it's very all inclusive. Everything is kind of happening to everyone at the same time. So luckily for us, when Villow meets Willow, which is a very fun moment, Willow is so intelligent and just incredibly quick with getting that tranquilizer dart, shot right into Villow. Like, I didn't even know if it was going to work. I'm like, can you trank a vampire?
Is that
I
what
don't know.
Is that what she went back for? Rewatching it this time when she goes, "Oh guys, I gotta go get something." I think she was going back for the trank gun because she was bending over to get it, and because she didn't want to kill Willow, so she probably thought, "Oh, whenever I need to trank my werewolf boyfriend, I use this trank gun, so she would know where it is." Because I didn't know. It felt forced.
Well, she's tranked him recently too,
right? And it felt like, when she first said, "Oh, I got to go back," I thought, "Oh, that's a forced way to get her away from everybody else." But now I'm like, "Oh, she was probably reaching for the trank gun. That's why she was so quick with it."
Interesting. Okay, so like because like I was gonna say like, oh, how did she know that that Villow was going to be there? And I guess like she didn't. It was just more so she didn't want to stake her. She had feelings about that. Like she specifically asked Giles and Buffy, like, are you thinking about like killing her? And they're like, oh, I don't know. Like, we'll have to see how it is in the moment, essentially. And we see right away that like Willow has big feelings about that. So grabbing the trank gun at least gives them the space and time to determine what the best solution to Villow is instead of just staking her. So I guess that was what her intentions were. I didn't realize that until we just discussed it. I thought it was like a mechanism to get her
alone
away from the
So
group.
did I. It was the rewatch last night where because I knew I was coming on the podcast and I thought, is this episode is too tight to feel like there's such a forced separation. And then I thought, oh, she's reaching over the desk. She was probably going for the trank gun.
So interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And so she's able to trank Villow, and they put her in the sex cage in the library, which is another brilliant use of the sex cage. Like, I love how often it gets used because it should be used. It's a cage, put people in it. And so they're like, we know what we're gonna do. We're gonna take because these people couldn't be more opposite in terms of just, they really were trying this episode, Sarah. Every outfit Willow was in is like fuzzy and fluffy. Every purse she carries is fuzzy. Like everything has smiley faces on it. Even she's wearing a smiley face necklace. They really were going in on like the osh gosh bagosh of it all.
Yeah, we needed the juxtaposition between Villow and Villow and Zillow.
Yeah. And Zillow.
They're a whole different boat.
I like the idea that they switched their outfits and they were like they took the time to put the like weird yellowy tights onto Vamp Willow. They're like, this is important. We need to get the tights on this vampire. Like, if you look close.
Do you think everyone was like, everybody like turn around, I don't look at her? Yeah, like, because she doesn't want to like show off her hoo-ha to everybody.
Yeah, no, she definitely had people not looking, for sure. The idea, okay, anyone who's ever worn tights knows how difficult they are to put on.
Without
the idea that the idea that they spent this time is hilarious. And Willow is just so obviously uncomfortable in this outfit. Like, she does such a great job at like changing from being very confident, like apathetic Villow to like anxious, neurotic, uncomfortable Willow in this pleather outfit is so funny. And the minute, Sarah, like, I absolutely died when she walks into the bronze and she's talking and she does the teeny tiny like wave to Oz.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. That scene was so funny because she was just so freaking obvious. She was like, hey guys, I'm back. And then as soon as she said that, I was like, oh no, like this is not going to go well for her. Like this is going to be an absolute disaster. Hi guys. Hope you missed me. XOXO. It was such a freaking mess. She got better as the scene went on. I think that she like really got into the role, but it was such a disaster at first.
I mean, Allison Hannigan does a great job at playing good Willow, bad Willow, good Willow, playing bad Willow. No, but I like that you're like, the tights are hard to put on. Yeah, with a cadre of hungry vampires, they decide it's really important to get bad Willow into the tights.
Need to get her into tights. But you know what we don't have time for? We don't have time to give her a center part, which I noticed right away because Villow had a center part. And Willow has a side part, but they didn't pay attention to that. But no one cared. It didn't matter. Everyone at the bronze was kind of sort of fooled by Willow for at least a hot minute, at least a second or two.
For
Did
literally
she
a
put the
second.
lipstick on?
Yeah, she
a
had red
little?
lips.
Okay,
She did have red
okay.
lips, which is like that's
He
an
took it
important
off
part.
Bad
Yeah.
Willow somehow.
And the good news
Gave Bad
is
Willow what she wanted.
the good news is real Villow doesn't have
Yeah.
Kool-Aid mouth like Daddy Vamps, so they didn't have to
Mhm.
give Willow Kool-Aid mouth. So that's
Mm.
great news.
Thank goodness for that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so meanwhile, while Willow is pretending to be Villow at the bronze,
Yes.
Cordelia happens upon
So good.
Villow in Willow's clothes in the cage. And this was the catharsis I needed. Truly, truly. Cordelia's like,
Yes.
while I had this time, I'm going to lecture you on the ethics of boyfriend stealing. And I loved this because, Sarah, this is what Cordy needed.
Yeah.
She needed a literal captive audience. And I loved her. Like, it almost is like, you know what, Cordelia, maybe like I seek out therapy, first of all, but like her just trying to like psychoanalyze why she dated Xander, right? Like the thrill of their relationship was the constant danger. Like, I loved this scene so much.
Yeah,
Hey,
I did too.
The therapist at the school got like mauled to death. So the therapy is off the table.
Oh, that's true.
Everyone dies in Helma. They really don't have any options.
No. I kind of feel a little bad that she actually didn't get to act like truly speak to real Willow. That's like the only downside. But I really liked this as well. And I really thought that it was just so freaking funny. The whole like you're so silly, like you're so dumb, like how'd you get yourself locked in there, like why were you in there anyway? And like Bad Willow was like, I like books because I'm boring and I'm a loser. It's just so funny because then it's like we have at the same time like good Willow pretending to be Bad Willow and Bad Willow pretending to be good Willow in that part, and they haven't spent like a ton of time with each other. So it's just like the headlines, like I'm a loser, I'm a geek, like I like books,
I'm shy.
I'm shy. That's what, yeah, I'm shy. It's like, okay, like that's what she thinks that this version of Willow is like. And then I don't know. It was such a good scene. And I really did like the fact that Cordy got to talk it out. I wish, like, for a second, I thought that she like sorted it out, but she didn't.
Yeah.
And then she got kind of spooked. And then her because by the way, did you see she was in that sexy ass outfit?
Oh, for
Wesley.
Yeah, of
Purely
course.
for Wesley. So then she's like, hi, I'm here for my new boyfriend, Wesley, and only Wesley.
Triple name Wesley, because he's rich.
Yes.
Wesley Wyndham Price.
He's only British. I don't think he's
That's
rich.
the most rich name person I've ever heard.
Of
You
course
just need to
he's
add like
rich.
the third on it, you know?
There's no money in the Watcher. Like they have no union.
No, they get paid
no
garbage.
benefits, they have nothing. But she's like, I'm here. And then he comes in and basically like is her like hero. Tell me that this is not it. Like this is a real relationship, Jessica. Like this is like true love, these two. I swear to goodness. I swear. We're like, hey,
Just
how do we
gives
get
me the
Cordy-
ick.
Sarah's putting all her eggs in Wesley and Cordelia.
Yeah,
That's what we're
and
hearing. Yeah.
What it
I have a question. I have a question.
Yes.
I just thought of, and I got so excited that I wrote it down.
Wrote it down. Okay.
Because I thought I've never thought this before. You said Bad Willow, Villow, picked up on the headlines from spending a quick amount of time with Good Willow. But before Villow was Villow, even in her world, she was Willow.
Yes,
and you can remember. So do you think she remembers being human? Like she remembers her human, and that's where she's getting the, because at some point, because if Buffy didn't show up, means that Willow probably lived to like 14 or 15 before being
She
turned.
hasn't been a vampire very long. It's not like an Angel
Right.
situation where like it's been so long that he'd have a tough time remembering his human memories.
But does Angel only remember his pre-vampire-ness because he has a soul? Like, did
No.
we ever hear That's not why. Okay, because
I think you remember, you just don't care.
Well, no, because like I was like, I mean, did like Drew Lulu or Spike ever talk about, or Daddy Vamps ever
They talked
about?
Yeah, Drew Lulu
Daddy
would talk
Vamps
about
was a
how
hot vampire, a hot bachelor on the town before he became
He
Daddy
was
Vamps.
absolutely.
Yeah. No, I think Drew Lulu would talk about how Angel tortured her. So she remembered because she was a
Yep.
human
Did
when he did
she
that.
talk about it, or did like everybody else talk about it?
I think she
She
talked
was
about
no,
it.
but she was never like.
It's hard for
Angel
me to track, but so I'm just gonna oh, here she is.
It was terrible. She never did that. I don't remember her saying. I remember Angel
she
telling
did.
us. I remember
I
Angel
think
being
she
like, I
did.
drove her mad. Okay.
I think she did mention how he used to do it, and I don't remember specifically. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say yes, they do remember parts of it, and that like the idea is that like a part of their human self is in the vessel that the vampire takes over. It depends vampire to vampire how much of that.
Well, plus
is
we do
there.
see at the end of the episode when Willow and Villow hug, beyond the like I think I'm gay moment earlier, which was hysterical. They like, she does seem like comforted by herself. Like Villow seems
Mhm.
comforted by Willow at the end of the episode. So I do think
The
there
other-
is some sort of thing there.
The other thing I wrote down was the payment thing. That you said Wesley doesn't get paid well. To be clear, the Watchers, the men, get paid. It's the Slayers who don't get paid.
But then Linus Giles also has to be a librarian, like when he was a Watcher before he got fired.
I think he has
Just
two
cover?
jobs, but I think it's been interesting to listen to you guys talk about the Watchers Council, because like I remember when you guys were talking about Helpless, and y'all were like, oh, this is, they're training the Slayer, and you were really trying to justify why this made sense. And I would like you guys to think about the fact that the Watchers Council may not have the Slayer's best interest at heart. Like
No.
there are online, like, the online comparisons are sort of like the Watchers Council as some sort of like patriarchy or something of that nature, because
Yeah.
they like, they like their Slayers young.
Yeah, they're old men
And
who are like, let's
controllable.
teach young women. Yeah. It's messed up.
So if she doesn't pass the test in Helpless, great, they got a new controllable Slayer. Or I guess by Helpless the Slayer line had passed. From my understanding, Faith, so when Buffy died it became Kendra died it became Faith is now sort of like Judaism passes through the mother. I think Faith has the Slayer passing, not Buffy anymore, because Buffy's
Really?
already died, is my understanding.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, I could see that. Interesting.
All my reasons for thinking about that's the case I won't talk about here, but yeah. And so I think, they either, that test when they turn 18 either gets them a new younger Slayer or scares them. And I think I think Wesley's getting paid. I mean, Faith isn't.
Faith is ridiculous. I can't.
Faith is getting paid because now she is a sugar daddy. Good for her.
Well, isn't it dumb I mean, even if the Watchers Council isn't purely good, it's pretty dumb of them not to pay their Slayers, because then anyone who
has money
has money.
Yeah.
Do you guys think it's like a huge oversight that they let Faith live in that terrible motel? I mean, now obviously motel, but like that no one was like,
I mean, I think it's a huge oversight to not have Faith have a Watcher to begin with. Like, really just letting her be a vigilante, like doling out her own justice.
She had her first Watcher who got killed.
But then nothing though. Then she didn't have a Watcher.
Well, no, then she had Gwendolyn Post who betrayed her.
No, Gwendolyn was always a mole, I thought, right?
No, I mean, no, she was a legit Watcher.
But she was never assigned to Faith. Like, she came in saying she was, and she wasn't.
Okay. There's a lot of debate in the fandom over whether Buffy and company treated Faith well upon arrival. I'm just curious what you guys think.
I think the Scoobies treated her fine. I think that it's the organization of the Watchers Council and all of them that did a disservice to Faith by not giving her proper training. Like, after her Watcher died, first of all, therapy up the wazoo she needs. Second of all, like,
They all do.
get her another Watcher beyond trying to have, I don't know, are they like, I don't even think Giles is assigned to Faith. I think he's kind of like, they're all kind of helping Faith and taking her
Giles
on.
is fired.
No, before. I'm saying before he
Oh.
was fired. Before he
Yeah.
was fired, like, Faith didn't get a replacement Watcher, which is extremely irresponsible to have her basically, like, Buffy is supposed to be reporting to Giles. Faith is not reporting to seemingly anybody.
Well, she was supposed to Wesley. Wesley was supposed to be Faith's Watcher. When Wesley arrived, he was supposed to be the new Watcher of both the Slayers.
Right. I'm saying before Wesley arrives. Before Giles is fired, Faith doesn't have a boss, right? She doesn't have a Watcher. She's just doing whatever she wants. I feel like that's a brief
gap, yeah.
Yeah, that's an oversight. And I think, like, especially, I don't know, Sarah, I don't know how clear it is. Like, we've talked about, like, Faith isn't really in high school. So, like, what, I think that's a huge oversight as well, to have Buffy at least can live at home, right? She has a parent. She is living at home. She has, like, a support system, where Faith has nothing. There's nothing there.
Yeah. I think that what I kind of am equating Faith and her attitude in regards to how she feels like she's treated is kind of like, she feels like the spare. And it kind of reminds me of, like, Prince Harry and, like, or like the second child after the future king is born. It's like, you're only born because, like, just in case something happens to the heir, you're a spare. And I think that gives you a certain mentality that, like, what you do doesn't matter. Like, you are just like an extra. Like, you're not the golden child. You're just like I said, like an extra. And I think that, especially, I think that she came to Boston because she had dreams of her and Buffy, like, being on the same page and being a team. And I don't think that Buffy really, like, necessarily welcomed that idea. And I think that, especially in the first episode, I mean, like, Joyce was more welcoming to Faith than Buffy initially was. And especially because, like, Buffy was, like, pretty jealous of, like, everybody fawning over Faith. And I mean, like, do I think that they treated her poorly? No, but I also think that, like, I think that when Faith came from wherever she came from, I think that the reality was different from what she dreamed up in her head. And I think especially they weren't always, like, utilizing her. They weren't always cluing in Faith as much as Giles didn't. And that makes her feel like that just, like, confirms that she's an extra, that she's a spare, that she's not as important. So I think that when somebody like the mayor comes along and is like, hi, here's my fancy ass apartment for you, but also you have a purpose with me. I need you and you need me because, like, of whatever, but, like, I need you. Then this is, like, the first time that people are like, that she's hearing that, like, she's important. In a way, she feels like she's not important because if she didn't live, if she wasn't there, Buffy would still take care of everything, because she has been. So I don't think that it's like, I don't think that they're being mean to her. I just think that maybe, like, yeah, like, maybe she should have gone her own Watchers so that people are focusing on her. Like, maybe Buffy could have done a better job of collaborating with Faith. Like, I think that they always would have butt heads because they have different philosophies on what being a Slayer is and, like, what your responsibilities are and, like, what your purpose as a Slayer is. So I think that they still would have butt heads, but I also think that, like, maybe we could have, especially with the fact that, like, Faith is a little volatile, we probably could have done better.
I was just curious. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll let you get back into it. I have a lot of thoughts on Faith and the mayor, but I know that's interesting. I think there was definitely Faith is jealous of Buffy and what Buffy has. And we'll get into it when we touch on their plot line, but more than buying her an apartment, I love the mayor and Faith because I love when the bad guys love each other, you know? Spike and Drusilla loved each other. It was a selfish, soulless love, but they loved each other. And I love the love that, the mayor shows to the care that he shows to Faith, you know?
Well, yeah, he's doing stuff for her that no one else has, right? She's living in this like super crappy apartment. He comes in, gets her this really nice apartment with a PlayStation. Like, she has everything she could want in that apartment. And like, no one else has taken the time to do that for her. And not even just like monetarily, but like checking in on her, you know? Like, I feel like we haven't really seen a lot of them doing that, especially now that there's the whole moral issue of, well, you killed a person and, taking responsibility for that and on and on. So it's,
but also
Yeah.
like you said, it's not just financially. Like when she tries to get sexual with the mayor, he shuts that down. She is probably jealous, not just that Buffy has a watcher in, fired Giles, but Giles is a father figure for Buffy.
Yeah.
And now she gets, a non-sexual, she's talked about how men have treated her a lot.
Yeah.
And the mayor is not, you can say what you want about the dust monster mayor, but he does not sexualize Faith. He comes in as the father figure, and it's the mirror, the doppelganger to Buffy and Giles. She's trying to create what Buffy has, but it's not based on earning it, right? So it's a whole different thing.
She's trying to shortcut it. She's trying to play shortcut and get
Totally
what Buffy has, but in a way that's not, the mayor is not Giles, obviously.
Or is he? Sorry, I'm just kidding.
And so, yeah, so back to the Wesley and Cordelia of it all. So once Cordelia does actually let out Villow, who she thinks is Willow, she's getting chased around the school. Luckily, Wesley is there to save the day because him and Giles are obviously bunkmates at the library. They have bunk beds, and he protects her with his cross. I will say, I don't know, Sarah, I was like, I thought Cordelia was going to be like done with him the minute that when she like taps him on the shoulder after Villow is like, I'm gone, I'm bored. Like, you're boring me now. I'm out of here. And he screams. Like, that scream was like the most like high-pitched like yelp I've ever heard.
Yeah, I mean, like, because that was their like, hey, if something's going wrong, like, what should I do? And she's just like, I'm gonna scream. So it was
yeah.
And I love how you're like, she's like, would a human do that? And then Anya and the vampire is like, yeah, like they would do that actually.
Exactly what a human would do.
Yeah.
So luckily, even though real Willow isn't super convincing as Villow, I loved this move, Hannah, of like getting vampires out one by one by being like, what was that? Can you go check on that real quick? Like, go on.
Did you
and
like
she's so nice about it.
The second vamp she sent out had a crazy goatee. She's like, we haven't heard from your friend in a while. And they cut to this little vampire with this long goatee. It's so funny.
Who are these people? They're just like randos.
They're redcoats. They're redcoat vampires.
They're redcoat.
Redcoats are just like the ones that people kill off because no one cares about them. They're just extras.
What's this reference from?
I think it's like Star Trek or Star Wars or something. It's like a common TV term. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Slay. Okay.
Red shirts, not red coats. Sorry, red coats are the British, I think. Red shirts. Sorry. Anyway. So luckily, like I said, she's able to like pretend for long enough. Finally, all the Scoobies come into the Bronze. Angel's there too. And we end things with like Villow very nearly killing Willow. She's choking her out on the stage. Buffy is about to stake her. And like we talked about before, Willow says, no, don't do it. And Willow convinces everyone, no, we should just send her back to her world. Like, she should have a chance to survive in her own world.
To slow down the podcast once again.
Yes, of course.
Did you notice that when Willow goes, Buffy, no, that's almost a mirror of Buffy saying, Faith, no, when she kills the guy? They're different level of impulse, sort of. I'm only pointing this out because I think that this is supposed to be about doppelgangers and
that's so interesting. Yeah.
I also want to say that I think this fight is one of the a really fun choreographed fight because pool balls are being thrown.
I saw that was so cool.
Someone with the pool stick. It's a goofy fight. Like, it's fun because it's goofy. I want to see more of the environment being used like that.
Yeah.
Pool balls, pool stick.
Yes, I totally agree. I was engaged in this kicky punchy.
Especially I like when Buffy turns around and as she's about to walk away, she stabs backwards with the pool cue.
Can't delay this. Got to go help my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which means she probably enjoys the fighting just like Faith does to some degree, if you think about it.
Yeah.
If we're talking about similarities and differences. But yeah, unlike Faith, she is fighting with a little less pure impulse and is able to stop before she stakes Villow.
Mm-hmm.
Just is able to have a little bit more. I don't know. This whole doppelganger thing is very interesting. Now that I just didn't think of it like that. I'm gonna watch it again with that.
Well, and we've talked about Faith, how the spectrum of Faith, Buffy, Kendra, and where they each fall on this kind of, I don't know, a structure or impulsivity, scale. And so it does make sense that when then you also be able to place Villow and Willow on the same sort of scale of who's more impulsive. And, if you want to put morality in there as well, it's really interesting because Buffy is able to stop herself. And I almost wish we got to see the conversation that then took place where Willow is able to convince them all that Villow should be spared because gosh, I mean, let's step back and think about this for a second. We spent 2 seasons, 2 full seasons on, do we kill Angel or not? Should he die? Should he die? Did he do bad things? What, he has a soul now, all these things. And everyone was like, Angel sucks. He's terrible. He should die for his sins, right? Who cares if his soul is back now? He should be gone. Xander especially, very pro-dead Angel. But I thought it was so interesting that we skip over that, whatever that conversation was, we don't even get to see it. We jump right to, no, we're going to allow Willow to keep Villow alive. And granted, this looks just like her. This isn't the same as Angel. Angel is not a doppelganger of one of the Scoobies. But we skip over the whole conversation. And Willow is allowed to, quote unquote, save Villow. She's allowed to let her return to her home world. It's just weird. It's interesting.
Well, I mean, not their world, not their problem, right? So
yeah, sure. It's just, I find it interesting that it's not that we didn't even see the conversation, but also that this is all happening the same night, so it couldn't have taken that long for Willow to convince them that this was the right move.
I think the best argument is that she's not supposed to be in their world, like Sarah said. Mm-hmm. In terms of the discussion of who do they let live, I think that it depends on how much they like the murderer in this show. I won't surprise you that down the line, Xander will be a hypocrite with his
no, shocking, I know. Xander, never.
At some point, Jess, you will get the sort of conversation about that.
Yeah,
and it will be involving Xander and his beliefs on Angel versus his beliefs in future situation.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting, and I'm not criticizing the choice because I think it makes sense, right? Let that world deal with Villow, and there could be repercussions for killing someone not from your world, right? Like maybe there's also some other stuff there that you don't want to mess with. But yeah, I also just loved, right, like a little bit of like self-love of like Willow hugging Villow, is like it's very like sweet. I don't know. There was something very nice about
And she
that.
grabbed her butt.
Yes, she grabbed her butt. She's a little
Yes.
gay.
Just a little. A very interesting kind of like Easter eggy type of thing. As this is like one of the only things that I knew about the show before we watched the show.
Okay, good. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I mean, Jess, I told Jess this, like, so we did this like preview pod where it was like, oh, like we're covering Buffy, like, and then I said like it was like 3 truths and a lie. And that was like one of the only things that I knew about Buffy. The only thing is that Jess has the memory of a goldfish.
Wait, I don't even know what you're talking about. What did you know about Buffy?
So
Never
funny.
mind. Forget about it. Just
wait. You knew that?
Never mind.
Willow was like saying she might be gay. That's what you knew?
Sure, Jess.
Yes, Sarah. What did you mean?
No idea what's going on.
This is exactly it. Like,
It's a funny Easter egg, I believe.
Yeah, I've told Jess this stuff a million times and she still forgets. So it's quite incredible.
I mean, to be fair, this was like over a year ago. You said this on a podcast. I don't remember that. You know how many podcasts recorded a week?
Hannah remembers.
I remember things my 3rd grade bully said to me. Where do
Me
you think
too.
that fun fact came from earlier in the episode?
Yeah. Hannah and I have similar memories. I remember every single bad thing somebody has ever said about me.
I don't remember anything.
The problem is when you go on national television, there's too many.
Yeah. Yeah, too many to remember.
There's too many to remember. So if anyone is thinking of going on TV, just think the positive. Some of your bullies' insults might be canceled out by the onslaught of internet insults. There's so many things that people think about me. That's fine. Oh no, that's a spiral we don't need to go down. Yeah, it's a fun Easter egg. And I think, I mean, this won't shock both of you, but like I said earlier, Willow is different after this episode. She's the same. Like, it's not like we get to next episode and suddenly she's crazy.
No, but I think I would probably equate it to the Halloween episode where like she's able to take charge. Sarah and I feel like have noticed that there has been a shift in Willow gained confidence after that episode. And I think without that confidence, she wouldn't be doing the Wiccan stuff, right? She wouldn't be witchy stuff. Like, I don't think she would have had the confidence to do those things. And I could see this episode being like another big shift for her as a character, for sure.
Yeah, we've seen glimpses of it, right? Like, even in, I know you're one of your least favorite episodes, but in The Pack, when she goes up to the sex cage and then she goes, that's what I thought. You know, she tests Xander. There are glimpses of, a more powerful adult, like in this shy teenager. And I think we start to see that more and more. And, they're leaving high school, so that it makes sense that the shy nerd is evolving. Well, I know you said you don't necessarily relate to Willow. I think Willow is one of the characters I relate the most to. Maybe that's why in my car I was defending her. Again, not the cheating. I'm too bad a liar. I would never cheat. Although Willow was a terrible liar in her cheating too.
Terrible liar. Oh my God.
Terrible liar. Morally, the logistics of it, not into the cheating. However, I think that Willow's evolution, this is, while we've seen peaks of it, this episode is almost like a thesis statement, because it's how she views herself throughout the episode. When she's pretending to be bad Willow, she's like, of course I killed her. She was so boring and like played by the rules. And this isn't what other people are putting onto her other than Snyder, or that the Percy. Yeah. I was trying to remember what sport, if he ran. I love the line. Basketball. But Willow has, this is a glimpse of Willow trying to figure out who she is. And that's something that will continue. And she goes, and we see Easter eggs or glimpses of it throughout, right? Even with the pencil, she's calm and controlled and controls it, and then it spirals out of control because there's like a deep emotional reservoir in her. So there's a lot beyond the sort of shy nerd. And I think this episode, beyond being just so funny, is the beginning of an exploration of one of my favorite characters in the series, a deeply flawed but very heartfelt character. And the next time you guys are mean to Willow, think of me in the car shouting at you and try to devil's advocate it, because I love Willow Rosenberg, and I know this is a fictional show, but yeah, she means a lot to me as a character. I think she's an important character in Buffy.
I definitely can at least relate to her on the level of feeling like, and not necessarily maybe at Willow's age a little bit, but even as I got into like my professional work life, of when you are the reliable person that often gets, you get walked all over a little bit. You can get abused, you can get taken advantage of if you are that person. And so I can relate to her in that way, right? Any group project I've ever been a part of, whether through my own fault or others, I tend to be the one doing a lot of the work, so I feel like Willow in those moments. And I like getting to see it's a very much like a coming of age show where we get to see someone kind of grow and develop and find their own confidence in themselves. And I also especially loved when they send Willow or Villow back to her own world. We go back right to where we left her off. She gets smashed right into the wood and and like right into dust. So funny. It couldn't have been a better way to do it.
Yeah. I think like it's kind of interesting because especially the hug with each other, it kind of reminds me of like being kind to your inner child or like to a younger version of yourself. And we were talking earlier where Hannah was like, well, like she, like Bad Willow probably like does remember how she saw herself before she became a vampire. Like she probably thinks that like she was weak and she was a loser and that she was boring and like she just liked to read books and she was shy, and like these like qualities that maybe like now like we know that like our Willow isn't very proud of, even though like a lot of these like traits are things that like are great traits, but like she's currently not proud of them. And like Bad Willow probably like thinks back to her pre-vampire self and it was like, that is a weaker version of myself. So it's kind of interesting because like when they were kind to each other, it's like, well, you're kind to like a different version of yourself, which is like great, especially when it's so hard to be like kind to yourself like inwardly, if that makes any sense. That might be like a bunch of like therapy mumbo jumbo.
No, it makes sense. It's interesting that you see them becoming like she's her inner child that she's like hugging, whereas like in the episode I see that Willow starts by calling Villow me, like they're one and the same, and by the end she's referring to her as a separate person, almost like becoming her own individual in her universe and existence. But I like the idea that she's, I don't know, accepting Villow and accepting herself.
Yeah. Because like when I do like when I'm in therapy and I have to do like inner child or younger like inner self like work, we often like refer to her as like a her and not a me. Like what would you want to tell her? Like what would you want to like, it's kind of weird because like we switch back and forth to like what would you have wanted to hear, and then I have to speak to like my younger self. I kind of hate it, honestly. It's like really, really hard for me. Like I'm not the biggest fan of it, but like my therapist is like very into it and she thinks it's like going to be very helpful for me, but it's very hard because it's not natural. So there is like it's like I like when I do it, I switch to like the using the words like me, myself, and then switching to like her and like that young girl. So it's interesting because like I kind of just like see like this like duality. It's just like this is a different person, but like it's like a different version of myself. So and also like maybe like Villow seeing herself as like a good or a human version of her, like in that moment. I mean, probably not because she has no soul, so she probably doesn't have the capacity to do this, but probably in that be like, oh, like she's the weaker version of myself, but like I still have like an appreciation for like it's me. Like I saw that was me before who I am now. I don't know. It's just like interesting to think about. Like that's how I'm kind of like perceiving all of this.
I like the idea that good Willow is having those deep, like self-reflective thoughts, and then Villow, who doesn't have a soul, is just turned on by herself.
Oh,
they're having two very different experiences.
Yeah.
No, I think Willow, like, I think I mean, you mentioned the craziness of these costumes that she's wearing. Willow also, I mean, you'll see some outfits and be like, "Oh, was Hannah being truthful?" But I think Willow's costuming begins to change too, and this is the start of that.
Thank God. I just the Oshkosh bagage of it all. Like they dress her so differently than they dress, and I know they do it on purpose. Like they want us to view Willow a certain way versus someone like Cordelia, who they dress like a 40-year-old real estate agent, or Buffy, who gets like more cuter outfits. Faith, who gets the like she's always wearing like a pleather sort of like baddie sort of thing.
Totally.
Like, they do it on purpose, but it's still just like
I think Willow of all the characters goes through the most like costume changes throughout the show, like costume evolution. And I'm not saying like obviously they all change how they dress a little bit, but Willow has the biggest evolution, and it's referenced throughout the show. Like she reflects on herself in high school, and so I think this is the beginning. I don't think any of this is too like specific a spoiler, but that this is the beginning of an evolution for Willow in having to explore the downsides of being at everyone's whim. I mean, this show is all about choice and making choices, and Joss Whedon's belief that the idea that if you're at the whim of the universe and not making any choices, then you're weak, and if you're a human who's making choices, then that's where strength comes from. And I think Willow being sort of bossed around by Snyder and then Giles and then Percy and then starting to make her own choice is a very Whedon decision of growth.
Yeah.
I'm very curious, like if she's having like future, I don't know, this like, is she in the future kind to her younger self who was like dorkier, or like who she's going to perceive as a loser? Because like that's kind of like my baggage. Like I'm like very hard on like the younger version of myself that I perceive to be like a loser or weaker, and I wonder like how she's going to be able to like refer to her younger self. Just we'll put a pin in that. It's interesting.
If you're looking for a therapist in the East Coast area, Eliza, who plays Faith, I believe is now a therapist.
Yes, she is. I saw that. Yeah, it's incredible.
So, really,
if all this therapy talk is making you excited to try therapy, you can have Faith be your therapist.
Yeah, Eliza Dushku.
Unless you're too, I know. I told my. I was like, I'd be too excited. She would know immediately, and I'd get kicked off the server.
You get fired as the fan. I had no idea. That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
I do enough Joss Whedon shows. She was like, I'm out of Hollywood. I'm becoming a therapist.
Yeah. And then we the way we end the episode ties really well in with this conversation, because Buffy invites Willow, oh, do you want to like go out tonight? She's like, no, I want to like die a virgin. Like, I want to like stay inside, read a book. Like, I want to go back to being nerdy girl. But then Percy comes up, and after his interactions with Villow, he's written like 3 different papers on all different presidents, not knowing which one she wants. He gives her an apple, right? Like, Villow intimidated the hell out of Percy. And Willow is like, oh, like maybe, and not to the, obviously, to the degree of Villow, but I think she can appreciate that, like, you know what? Maybe I can lean a little bit into that, like, that side of me. And I can take that with me, you know, and carry that with me in the future. And I like that. And she says, like, okay, you know what? Like, maybe I will go out. Yeah. Like, I like that she is now learning, even if it's something small and innocuous, but like learning a little bit of something from like an alternate version of herself and kind of going forward with that.
I mean, she's gonna take it with her, like kind of like the Halloween episode. Like,
yeah,
we felt like she kind of took that with her. Like, she's gonna take this experience with her. It's all about growth, right?
Yeah,
taking it bits and pieces.
Were you guys surprised that the oh my god,
Percy?
No, the club they all go to. What is
the Bronze?
The Bronze.
Were you surprised at the Bronze cards?
I'm surprised they served alcohol. I thought the whole point of this was that they didn't serve alcohol. That this is like a kids club.
I thought they were serving underage the whole time.
I mean, certainly.
Yeah. I thought they. Like, poor Anya. Poor Anya.
Terrible.
Yeah.
So the one thing we talked a lot about it, but if there's anything else anybody wanted to say on the whole Faith in the Mayor thing, like obviously we're putting a pin in the mayor wants Willow dead. Like he knows Willow is researching him and it's only a matter of time until she's able to like, do her little her interweb sleuthing and crack his codes.
The hacker
extraordinaire.
I almost forgot how good of a hacker she was.
Well, she's been witchy so long. Well, we know she's not an expert witch yet because again, Amy is still a rat. But yeah, I mean, I am really enjoying the mayor as a villain.
It's so funny. Sorry.
I'm enjoying the mayor as a villain. I think he's really like, again, I love a villain that enjoys being a villain and he certainly like revels in it. I think we're going to get some really fun stuff. Like Sarah and I were both like very surprised that Trixie was like off the scorecard.
Such a fun character too.
Yeah. So interested to see where we're going to go with the mayor from here, but definitely not great that he wants Willow dead. And she could have died if not for Villow this episode, truly. But
no, the mayor's great. I think a villain who cares about things and who cares, like the beginning of him really caring about Faith. I think a villain who occasionally speaks truth, we'll see that this season, is a more fun villain. I think season 2 compared to 3, you have season 2, the emotional punch of Angel becoming Angelus, at least for Buffy, is a very emotionally charged thing. And I think that episodes like this are why I love season 3, just top to bottom, so strong. And y'all are on a good forward momentum now. It's just good episode after good episode. And I think the mayor with Faith is a really a fun big bad. I kept watching and I kind of went through season 4 into 5, and this, again, no specificities to not spoil, but I will say that season 4, outside of the show's control, some stuff goes down to make their big bad I'm just like less connected to. So revisiting season 3 after being in season 4, I'm like, this is
it's a good place to be.
Yeah, it gets back on it in season 5, and there's a lot of good in 4. I don't mean to scare you, but I think the big bad is sort of the weakest part of 4, from my opinion. And this is all so vague as to not
listen.
spoil
It's
anything.
Totally fine, Hannah. People didn't think we would appreciate Daddy Vamps, and we still talk about him. So
maybe you will. Yeah,
maybe
maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah,
but
maybe we'll appreciate him. Yeah.
I just love a villain who cares about things and who's
like
I think
children.
Like children.
The future of children. Well, you start to see sort of the differences in father styles between Giles and the mayor.
Yeah.
And Giles is a father figure who believes that Buffy should make choices and learn from her choices. Whereas the mayor, where, you know, shoes off the bed, it's a much more, I tell my child who I like what to do. And, you know, the thesis of the show is that choice is what leads to growth and earning people's things. So obviously that's why one is bad and one is good, but I'm trying to speak as vaguely as possible. But I like the mayor, and I like Faith in the mayor, and it's fun. I think they're fun. I think Faith has not had someone to connect with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're in for a real treat for the end run of this particular season.
I think you are, yes.
Sarah, do you want to know what next episode's title is? Season
Yes.
3, episode 17.
17.
It is called, this is so vague, Enemies.
There's plenty.
so many
Yeah.
of them.
So many.
Yeah. Interesting.
Who
Well,
do you
we'll see
think
where
they're referring to, Sarah? If you had to put $1 on it.
Maybe, I mean, there was like a lot of competitiveness between Faith and Buffy recently, especially with this like SCT prep course type of thing that they've been having to do. So maybe Buffy and Faith, they're enemies, like frenemy, enemy.
I feel like this was before the term frenemies, so that would make sense. You know what I mean? Like otherwise it would be called frenemies.
They didn't know
what that SAT prep course of Slayers. It's hard to watch after she like tries to kill Xander, and this episode she's just like, yeah, I scored well. It's just, it's hard.
It's so weird, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's hard. It's like, how do you follow consequences? Which is a deep, like thesis statement of the consequences of bad moral choices. And now we have this very comedic episode. And so we don't have the space to reflect on her trying to kill Xander and assault him.
It's
She
wild.
sexually assaulted and tried to kill a Scooby.
Yes.
And now she's like, whew, she's out of breath. Like it is Faith light. I will give it this episode that we don't quite have time to process yet what's happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought that maybe the council is just working on their punishment, because I just thought that there was going to be more consequences, essentially.
You believe in the council so much.
I mean, like, I have
You've
to. I
met
have
the
to,
head of the council.
I know,
What did you
but
think of him?
I just think that there's just like needs to be like there should be checks and balances, but I don't know. I'm too believing in like these
bureaucracy.
Yeah, I'm just.
It's the patriarchy, Sarah. We know what that's like.
I guess it's just a me problem. I don't know.
I still want to hear your theories. I hope I didn't like squash any. I love listening to the podcast because I love when one of y'all pitches a theory and it's really close. And I'm like, oh my God, they're getting there. And then someone else is like, no, that's wrong. Let's go in this direction. It's so fun to listen to.
What if the mayor is a dust bunny?
I mean,
it's
so
fun.
possible.
Like, this happened, I think it was the last episode. I won't say the specific thing you said, but one of y'all were like, I think this is why you were talking about why people like Faith. And one of you said something that was, so spot on. And then you were like, that's silly. And moved on after a sentence. And it's so fun to listen to. I also really like the theme song of the podcast. I love that it's like almost a full 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Oh, thank
It's
you.
very
now.
90s.
It's very long and very fun. I listen to it like a song. I'm saying things the listeners already know because they're like an hour and a half into this podcast. But I've enjoyed getting to listen. I think the first time I came on, I was excited to talk Buffy, and now I'm just excited to be on the podcast I've been listening to.
That's very kind. I mean, we truly, luckily, we are very unspoiled and we know nothing, and so we are allowed to just throw all of our ridiculous theories at the wall.
I love it.
It's a really fun time, and I'm really excited to finish out this particular season, especially again knowing how much people love Faith. And feeling like, I know Sarah and I have said this so many times, like, where is Faith this episode? Like, we want more Faith. Like, obviously, it feels like now that she is in bed with the mayor, like,
she's back for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
That's not
she's back. We're gonna get more of her.
You will get a lot of Faith.
We did get an email from Rowan. And this is a conversation we have had many times on this podcast by now about what's going to happen when Angel spins off. What are we going to do about Angel? And this is what Rowan has to say about that. I only found the podcast recently, but I've binged my way through all your Buffy episodes and can't wait for more. I would love it if you were to decide to watch Angel alongside Buffy, but I understand your hesitation. It's a huge commitment of time and energy for a character I know you don't totally love. Don't let your feelings about Angel as he is on Buffy put you off. One of the great things about the spinoff is that it rarely takes Angel's brooding seriously. There's so many other characters you would love who have amazing arcs. I think you'd really enjoy it and looking forward to whatever you decide to do. So that's Roman's 2 cents.
I think that we're still on the Angel segment at the end of the
I think that's where we've landed, is that like
Yeah.
we're at least gonna watch the pilot whenever it happens, whenever the spinoff does occur. We'll at least watch the pilot, and we'll probably do it as a segment on the Buffy podcast, depending on how much we enjoy it, how much we continue to watch it. Like
Mhm.
I think it could be fun. Yeah, I'm not poo-pooing it. I am getting the vibe though that like it's gonna happen soon, Sarah. Like I just feel like the end of the season. I would love to be wrong again. Like I would love nothing more than for us to be like, well, he's spun off, and then he's not. He's still here.
How, in what mode of transportation is Angel spinning off? Because I'm vibing towards like 15th century, like Mayflower boat at the moment. Like this is what I'm seeing.
They love the docks. They go to the docks all the time.
I think he's literally shipping off.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, I think he's literally just over at the dock, still in Sunnydale. Like his whole season takes place on the dock.
I think it's like important business. I think he gets called away on important business, a la the arm, you know, where like take this arm and leave. I think he's going to be called away on important business.
Plane, train, or automobile.
Well, he can't really be on a plane because like he literally like would die. He's a vampire. He can't see the sun.
Red eye? He could take a red eye. What are you talking about?
I feel like there was another reason. Didn't he say he couldn't be on a plane?
Motion sickness.
That's what it is. I don't know.
I really think you guys should. I don't care about the pilot. I mean, I'm sorry, Rowan. I'm not trying to get in the way of this. I think that there are some episodes, especially when they're on the same network, that are literally, they reference and you're like, huh? And the first time I was watching Buffy, I was like, wait, when did that happen? Where it's just these crossover episodes.
Yeah.
And there are a few of them that are kind of important to the Buffy storylines.
At the very least, we have listeners that like would inform us at the very, very least, you know, but most likely I'd say we'd at least tune in for those.
I think a few crossover episodes would be fun because it'll just add to the Buffy of it all. I have, I've watched some of Angel and some not. I don't mean to offend anyone. I guess my issue with it is that it seems to me, from my experience with it, that much more than Buffy, the women serve male storylines. And the reversal, I can't do. Just like, but there is a lot of fun and a lot of characters from Buffy, new characters, and also, I don't think it's a huge spoiler to say some characters from Buffy you'll find on the Angel spinoff.
Yeah,
some will go to the docks with him.
Road trip time.
Wish it was all at the docks. Oh, that'd be
they
so
love
fun.
the docks. And listen, we've seen Dawson's Creek. Just watch out for that sea gook, okay?
Yeah,
watch out for the sea gook.
They could get you. Dawson's Creek.
The sea gook will get you, Hannah. That's the thing you need to know.
Yeah, that is Dawson's Creek's #1 killer of teenagers is sea gook. And in Sunnydale it is vampires, but that's the difference between the show.
Did you guys like, speaking of Angel lurking, I liked it when it was played comedically this episode, when Oz was like, oh, are you looking for Buffy? And he nerdily went, oh, aren't I always, or something?
Yeah. He's always just creeping. That's the thing. Angel just be creeping. That's his MO. It's all he does.
That's what I like about when I've liked Angel much.
We've returned to season 1
recently. Yeah. And I don't know what was the turning point in which episode, but recently I am back to liking Angel like how I liked Angel in season 1.
Because he's just broody, one-line Angel.
Yes. Stands in a corner where he belongs. Yep.
How do I speak to the listeners who have seen this series without speaking to you guys?
Do you want us to plug our
when I
ears?
say this? No, I just, when you go from 3 to 4, Buffy's picker isn't as good as Willow's, in my opinion.
Bad taste in men.
That
Not
sounds
always.
right.
I just, the dialogue between Angel and Buffy, if you struggle with that, hold on to your romantic dialogue pants, kids, because season 4 is about to get more militant.
Buffy's a romantic. She's probably like a Pisces
Is she?
Venus.
No, we know what she is.
Is she a romantic?
She had a birthday.
She likes the schmoopies, I mean.
I wouldn't call her a
romantic.
romantic, but with Angel, they're very intense, maybe is the word I would use.
Scorpio, Venus.
I feel like she's more of like a doomsday pessimist when it comes to relationships than a romantic.
I think I just meant the dramatic talk.
She lost her virginity and then he tried to kill her. I mean,
that
she
is
fucked
a
the
problem.
soul. Yeah, she fucked his soul.
You
out of
ever?
place.
Oh man, yeah. Will Angel ever spin off?
One day.
I don't know.
No.
One day. Anything else about this episode? Doppelgangland.
I'm looking at my very rough notes.
My one thing that we skipped over that I do want to just mention as I noticed it and I loved it. When the Scoobies realize that Willow is alive, the hug that Giles gives her,
hugs,
so sweet. And I
very
loved it so
cute.
much. So I just had to mention it because we skipped over it, but I loved it so much. It was so sweet. I love Giles and I love Willow's relationship with Giles. It's so cute.
I love Willow's crush on Giles. That's my favorite part. I guess that's why I relate to her. She's got a crush on the nerdy librarian who's also like a badass.
Ripper.
Yeah, that's what Wesley's missing is a little Ripper.
Wesley is just the biggest wiener. Here's the thing. Giles has a dark myth past, so I can get down with the fact that he is now a nerd. He has calmed down in his age, right? And he's not that old, but he's calmed down. Wesley is just the kid who's like, teacher, you forgot to assign our homework.
That's you, Jessica. That's you.
I never did that. I'm cool enough to not do that. He is the hall monitor, he is the fun police. And I just can't with that.
I mean, I'm not defending Wesley because he's so funny. He's played for so much comedy in this thing, but it is also, I think, when we're talking about flawed Buffyverse characters, you have to remember that everyone starts at a point and gets to grow. That's the fun of it. Even Spike.
Cordelia is a really good example of that.
Cordelia, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing him grow.
I'm looking, I love that this universe allows characters to have a starting point and then be changed by their experiences on the show.
Mm-hmm. You know what, Sarah? He's going to fall in love with Cordelia and it will change his life forever.
I believe it. I'm a believer.
Sarah, wait, what's their couple name? You're the biggest shipper of
Wesley and
Kesley?
Cordelia. Kesley.
Either that or Wardy.
Wardelia.
Wardy sounds like Wardy, like
this is
frogs.
Perfect. Wardy.
What's its first name? Oh, Wesley.
Wesley. It's Wardy. No, it's Wardy. They're Wardy.
What's his first name? What's his first name? Wesley.
I forgot the price. What's
Sarah's
his middle name?
Wardy's shipper.
Wardy. I am. Yeah. I like them. I think that they make a lot of sense. Okay. I don't know why.
You're really into that high school age gap.
I like age gaps, actually.
She loves an age gap.
I mean, at least it's addressed. Angel saw Buffy at 14 and was like, she's so pretty.
Yeah.
And at least it's somewhat addressed.
Yeah.
The only
somewhat close.
Yikes.
I mean, it's not super kosher.
Okay, no, hold on. So, how old? Okay, we think he's 26, maybe 26. She's what, 18, 17?
She's a high schooler, Sarah.
Thank you. She is in a high school, Sarah.
They're
Sarah,
seniors.
this is not okay, Sarah.
8 years.
Sarah, it's not about
Yeah.
the years, it's about the specific ages.
Hannah, have you
8
seen
years is
Pretty Little
fine.
Liars? Have you seen any of Pretty Little
Oh,
Liars?
I saw a clip. I've never seen it, but I've seen a clip from the remake in which this
Oh,
girl
no.
Yes.
says she gets weird vibes from Ezra when she was like interviewing to be, and they finally addressed that yes, if your parents say don't date your teacher to an underage high school student, they're not the villains. They're the good
Yeah.
guys.
Mm.
Sarah, I understand 8 years. It's not the years, it's the age of and social position of Cordelia as a high
Yeah.
schooler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was brought up on Ezra, so I understand.
Look, I had a crush on like every teacher I've ever had.
Oh my god, I
but
did
that's
too. I
not
changed
the
my
point.
handwriting for my teacher.
God.
But we
I-
don't act on it. And if a teacher were to
yes.
have acted on it, that's inappropriate because
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
grooming.
Yes. I have to
I so
remember
appreciate
this.
that Hannah is here to have this conversation with Sarah because I've tried to have this conversation.
It's okay, Sarah. Talk through it. What about a senior in high school and her older teacher does not? Yeah,
He's not her teacher.
He's like assistant librarian.
No, he's not. He's not hired by the school.
Okay,
He just hangs
but
out
then
there.
why is he in the school all the time? What's his day job?
Thank
there?
you.
He has no day job.
Is he
Okay,
the
but
new-
also he is in a position of power over her.
No, they don't work together.
Okay, Sarah.
She's
Sarah.
out. He's in. And out and in and out.
I guess if
Yeah.
oh no, we hope not. Look, if you're in high school and there's the adults, the adults have fully developed frontal lobes, and these are children.
yeah. But Ezra,
Oh God.
work. Okay,
That
okay,
was
I'm joking.
wrong. I didn't
was
watch Pretty
wrong.
Little Liars, and I've
Yeah.
so for maybe the Pretty Little Liars fans will come with me, but I am with whichever parent told her that this is inappropriate.
Both parents.
They should not have allowed this girl to eventually get married to him. That's grooming.
They got married
Yeah, they did get
and
married.
they adopted a
and-
child together.
In the
Anyway,
books, he got arrested and got sent away for life.
see, the books are better.
Good.
But
Or not. But
Anyway,
anyway, yeah.
we'll see
This
what
is a
happens
weird-
with Warty.
Warty.
In the future. But yeah, that's everything that happened on Buffy this week. And if you want to send in feedback, which we always appreciate, shit90spod.com, shit90spod@gmail.com. Send us in a voicemail. It's a great time. And we'll be back just next week with Enemies.
Thank you for having me.
Hannah, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us. Yeah, I feel like I feel like our brains were changed a little bit with the Faith Buffy doppelganger conversation. So I'm very happy about that. I feel like we
I'm
have a lot to look
glad.
forward to in this season,
glad.
and now we have that little
I think
thought
you
in our
should
brains.
always, when you watch Buffy, except a few episodes, think, how does this relate to Buffy? Because it's ultimately a coming of
Always
age
about
story
Buffy.
of Buffy. As full and rich as all these other characters are, and so it's a good lens. Thank you to any listener still listening. If I interrupted or got too excited, it's just I just love talking Buffy. But I will be back for Wild at Heart.
Yes,
Season
next
4.
Season 4, episode 6.
So
soon-ish.
yeah, not that far away.
That's exciting.
That's so exciting. Yeah, if you're a high school student listening, don't take your teachers. Thanks
Don't
for
do
having me. You can follow me at Hannah Little Nesson. Don't listen to Sarah.
No.
Although, to be fair, the power dynamic between Wesley and Cordelia definitely goes with Cordelia with the power.
Yeah.
Cordelia
Not
has power.
okay. Not okay.
It's not okay.
No.
It's not okay.
No.
But this has been a pleasure. This episode is so fun, and I'll be back for a very different one. But I hope I hope you guys like the rest of the season, because season 3, I think, is, especially the second half, is really
We've been
special.
popping off. We've been popping off
Yeah.
since I don't even know, The Wish, maybe. Sarah, anything else you want to plug? Anywhere else people can check out what you got going on?
Over at Whirlwind, we restarted our coverage of previously on Shameless, where we watched the entire, I think we're on season 5 now, 5th season of Shameless, but we're only watching the previously on. So if you want to check that out, I can be found there. There's a whole heap of stuff going on at Whirlwind. But that's it. That's it for me.
Incredible. Well, you can find me at the Jess Sterling, and you can find us at Shit 90s Pod. We'll be back next week with another episode of Buffy. And until then, everyone, here endeth the lesson.
Just ask. Shit 90 shows taught me.
Shit 90 Shows Taught Me was not filmed before a live studio audience.